Just in keeping up with all the absolute tomfoolery that is happening at the SNP. SNP NEC member to quit if party don't appoint forensic auditors. For those of you that don't know, every party has an NEC, which is, I think it's National Elective Council or something like that, who are basically a shadow party within the party. Right, now when it comes to political parties, the people that are on the NEC are the ones that actually hold the power in the party. They do votes on who gets to start this, that, and all manner of other things. UKIP had an NEC who just absolutely frustrated everyone's efforts to do anything after Farage stepped down, and then Batten took over, and then Brain took over. And yeah, if anybody wants to know one of the reasons why UKIP actually failed, everybody likes to say Sargon and Dankula tanked UKIP. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was the NEC and stupid figures inside UKIP tanking UKIP with all their Game of Thrones bullshit. And also Nigel Farage leaving. That definitely didn't help. So basically, this is the SNP's NEC who are in a hell of a flap right now over the recent goings on into the party finances, and one of them's actually threatening to quit. A member of the SNP's governing body is threatening to quit if the party does not consider appointing forensic auditors. Basically, the auditors who were the SNP's own auditors quit. They just all quit because they were like, yeah, we can kind of see the writing on the wall. We can see that something dodgy's happening here. I'm out. And they just left because they don't want to get dragged down with a sinking ship. And they might, I don't know if it's a case of, see how, what's the thing that they say? Malpractice is not an excuse or something like that. It's a case of, if you didn't know what you were doing, but you did the thing anyway that caused the bad thing, that's not an excuse, you still get charged. It escapes me. So they're all jumping ship. Bill Ramsey, the convener of the SNP Trade Union Group, the party's largest affiliate and its representative on the National Executive Committee, there you go, expressed frustration over recent events and said he had been raising issues on party transparency for some time. It comes amid a row over the party's auditors as it emerged last week that Johnson Carmichael had resigned. Earlier this week, Humza Yousaf confirmed that the auditors had left around 6 months prior, and it emerged that the SNP were struggling to find a replacement firm, because a lot of auditing people are kind of going like, nah, I'm not touching that. do it yourself. But I believe that the police are going to hire some to go in and have a look around. It is understood that members of the NEC were not informed of the auditors leaving. The row comes days after former SNP Chief Executive Peter Murrow was arrested, then released as police investigate the party's finances. The NEC is now due to meet this weekend to discuss the replacement process for Murrow's role and oversee a new review of transparency and governance in the party. The former SNP Minister Alex Neil is among those calling for forensic accountants who can be involved in investigating fraud and professional negligence to be brought in. Speaking exclusively to The National on Wednesday, Ramsey said, in June last year, as the world was moving out of governance restrictions imposed by COVID, I was making calls for more transparency. Indeed, I forced a vote to ensure that members of the NEC could see how other members were voting. Likewise, I've been calling for NEC members to be in person as well as online. That was only acceded to when the new leader took office. I have also made repeated calls for a paper outlining the liabilities affecting NEC members and its relation to matters of governance. I am still awaiting a written response to that reasonable request. My call for a full-day NEC meeting to address the way the party is run is still being resisted. It seems with the next NEC on Saturday 15th April once again being just a half-day event. This, and a talk of a review, is not taking the need for urgent change nearly seriously enough. If the call to appoint forensic auditors is not moved forward, I will have to seriously consider whether I can continue on the NEC. The SNP have been contacted for comment. So basically, a lot of people are starting to realise, like, Humza even just the other day said, I don't believe the SNP is a criminal organisation. I don't believe is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that statement, isn't it? Yeah, I think a lot of people are starting to realise that there was a lot of dodgy stuff going on in the party, and people are starting to panic because even though they didn't know what was going on, they may have still enabled it and facilitated it, albeit unknowingly. But however, that does mean that they have a hand in it. You know, you didn't check the accounts quite well enough, and some money was being siphoned here and there and all over the place. And that's just what happens with politicians in liberal democracies. Whenever they are the custodian, you know, the prime minister or the president or whatever you want to call it, let's call it what it actually is, the custodian for those precious 4 years, you're just going to use those 4 years to enrich yourself as much as possible. You know, party and country and citizenry be damned, because like I said before, the key is to get the money from the citizens' pocket into your own pocket. That's what democracy is. People just have a little shot in the money tube to stuff as much money in their shirt as possible. I'm just going to keep using that because I think it's just a perfect analogy for what democracy actually is. Name any big, major, nation-improving changes that the government has done in like the last 10 years. Well, they've just made things worse every single time, but every 4 years we cast a little fucking vote and go, things will be different this time. This time, as you know, what was it Einstein said about doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? Yeah, let's just sit back and wait and see what happens. But also, the finance minister was actually arrested. Was it the treasurer? It was someone, I forget what it is. Someone, Colin Beattie. He was actually arrested the other day as well. Because and I don't know what's happened as a result of that. Don't know if he's going to get charges. But hey ho, let's just sit back and watch the SNP implode.